super feel bad that we bombed your dad. Whoops. Probably not the best decision on our part. I feel bad about it. Also, you're hot, so you know, let's go to Scarif. Let's do this thing. Have an exorbitant amount of Pepsi ready to go. All right.
I've got coffee.
Yeah, let's give it a fucking whirl. It's a beautiful day here on Scarif. What could go wrong?
Yeah, Imperial presence is there.
It's presenting.
Oh my god, did we plan on matching today, or is this like, are we on trend?
Oh yeah, well, I figured, long live the Empire. Am I right, guys? So I thought black, maybe some white would be festive.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Woo, order. Yeah. So,
Director Krennic is gonna love you.
I love Crenny.
Krenny baby.
Crenny.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to Star Gaze, where we're not only force sensitive, we're fierce sensitive.
Whoa, okay. We are making it your own, I see. Okay. Love that. Love it. Love it. Love off book.
Let's
Anything new?
um no, not really.
Me fucking neither. Yeah.
Life is chugging along.
Yeah, I'm just enjoying my Pepsi Cola beverage. Um, Here, having a nice
Hashtag
float.
sponsed.
Yeah, hanging out in the shallow but delightful waters of Scarab. So, and I feel very safe, very protected. This is not alarming at all. Yeah, we are good here.
There's a lot of cartel here, so they have a lot of large security presence.
Yeah, I'm told everything is fine. Um, should be a beautiful, beautiful sunset later.
Yes. Fireworks, maybe.
Yeah. Happy Empire.
Pyrotechnics.
Yeah. Anyways, anything real new? No, right?
Um,
My life's boring.
no. Same.
Cool.
We're kind of in a
Well,
lull at the moment.
do you want to unpack that?
No.
No. Okay.
Nothing
Um,
fun going on. Summer's almost here though, so that should perk up a bit.
yeah, should take care of the depression, no problem.
Yeah.
Uh, um, we are here today to talk about the series finale of Andor, also known as Star Wars
Was
Anthology
confused for a second. I
Rogue
was like, wait a
One.
minute.
Yeah, Star Wars
It's like, no, we talked
Anthology
about that
Rogue
last week.
One, and also known as Rogue One, a Star Wars story. So,
Rouge.
Rouge One. Um, Take me back, Zach. Ooh, that kind of rhymes. Okay. Yeah. We're
Don't
feeling
love
it here in
that.
Scarif. Yeah. Um, Take me back to your first memories and impressions of Rogue One, pre coming out, after coming out. I mean, the movie, not you
The
as
closet.
a game. Yeah.
Me. Wow, where do I start? Um, it was I didn't really know what to expect from it. I mean, I think I expected a more typical Star Wars experience, is what I was expecting from it. It was not what was delivered. Um,
Oh.
yeah. And there's a lot of firsts in Rogue One that explain why that was, and we'll talk about that a little later. Um, but I think when it came out, what was it 2016?
Hmm.
What was going on in my life at 2016? It seems like ages ago. Uh, I think it was kind of like Solo. Like I didn't really know what to expect from it, but I was excited that something Star Wars was coming out, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, let's see that.
Hmm.
You know, I didn't really do a lot of digging into it to find out what the story was. I was just excited to see Star Wars in theaters.
Cool.
How about you?
I remember it being announced because they announced they were going to do anthology movies.
Okay,
And the title they had announced with like a title card, and they played like some audio they made of like what I'm guessing was supposed to be soldiers on the beach of Scarif. Um,
like these
and
movies.
yeah, but it was just audio as the title came in. If I can find a clip of it, I'll put it up here.
Insert, insert here.
Um, but it was called Star Wars Anthology Rogue One at the time. So that's how it was announced. And then I remember them filming, and I remember them changing the title because I think they did reshoots. There was like a whole oh yeah, this is big. There was like a whole other version like of the movie where like spoiler alert, but they all didn't die at the end. Like there was this totally different ending.
All right, or then they died differently.
Yeah. Um
Mhm.
so there were reshoots done and all of that good stuff. So there was that. But I remember being really excited about it because you know, I had thoughts about The Force Awakens, but for the most part, like The Force Awakens like did really well. And you know, new Star Wars stuff is coming out, and especially once the trailers for Rogue One came out, that was enticing. Vader was in the trailers.
Mhm.
I also kind of wish maybe he wasn't. um, but I remember seeing him in the trailer and being very excited about that, you know, because we hadn't seen him in live action since Return of the Jedi. So, um,
That's right.
except for that cameo in Revenge of the Sith, but he hadn't been
Right,
like
right.
in a movie since Return of the Jedi. So that was very exciting. So, and I was very pleased with what we got. You know,
Yeah, initially, I think it took me one or two watches of it to really appreciate it for what it was.
okay,
Aside from it being just like stunningly beautiful, it's
yeah,
probably one of the most beautiful Star Wars films out there.
yeah, it's
Um,
great.
Having a lot to do with why it would, the way it was shot and the 70 millimeter wide film. Um,
Yeah,
it's just oh my God, it's just gorgeous.
yeah, I loved it, man. I thought it was
All right, great episode.
very well written. Yeah, cool. We loved it. Bye, everybody. Yeah, I mean,
So you said it was originally titled Rogue One, an anthology or a Star Wars anthology Rogue One. Were there going to be
yeah.
more films like Rogue One initially?
Yeah, and I think Solo had already been kind of planned. So Solo was gonna be another anthology movie, and then
Okay,
it's the same kind of concept. It was just they evolved into a Star Wars story, and that became the series title instead of Star Wars Anthology.
see,
I don't know why they made that
cool.
change, but um, yeah. So, and that's what
So
Kenobi was originally going to be.
is
Also,
is Starfighter going to be another like Star Wars story?
I don't think so. I think that line
No,
is
it's like
dead
its own thing.
because of Solo. Yeah,
Oh yeah, thanks Solo.
yeah. I yeah. Star Wars Starfighter. I think is just going to be that, and maybe its own set of things if things go well.
I see.
From what they were saying, Sean Levy and Ryan was that it's gonna be kind of a self-contained story. Like it's not gonna be his character's not like somebody who was like a major player or like at the big events that happened in the sequel trilogy, but
Okay,
he is somebody
something
who was
similar to like
impacted
Skeleton
by it.
Crew,
Yeah.
where it's like its
Um
own thing.
it's after episode 9 and it's the events have impacted him in some sort of way, but he's not like super tied to everything else that's going on.
I see.
So
Okay, cool. I'm
if
excited
it
for
does
that.
well, I bet it'll be kind of like its own spin-off line. Hmm. Yeah, but anything else about Rogue One before we kind of start walking through it?
Yeah, let's dive right in.
Cool, cool. So Rogue One actually starts in the past with a flashback scene.
Mhm.
Do you, okay. You look like I lost you already. I was like,
No,
we watched it together. I was like, do you remember this?
it does
um,
start with a flashback.
yeah, it does. With Krennic having located Galen and family, hiding out, and Jin running away to safety, and then all of that wonderful stuff happens, and poor Lyra comes back. I don't know why.
Yeah,
Yeah, can we talk about that? So she,
it looked like he's like that. Galen sold the idea that she was dead.
yeah,
Like
which was I'm
Krennic
sure
would
is what
have
they
left
rehearsed.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Because the important thing was that he got Galen. I really don't think he would look that. I guess maybe to get more leverage over him, but like
Hmm.
if they could just get him on the ship, I don't think he was really going to worry that much about it. You know?
I know. So they kill her anyway. So it's like,
Yeah. And it sounded like Galen was like kind of prepared to go. Like, that's what we're doing. Like I'm gonna have to go. You guys go to safety. I don't know what she thought she was gonna do.
bitch.
Yeah, and then she made Jin an orphan to be raised by a psycho.
Hmm. And she was a
Cool.
terrible shot. Like she wasn't even that far
Yeah.
away. How did she miss?
Yeah. Yeah. It's rough. And those death troopers, they don't miss. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Okay,
they're
yeah.
much better than their stormtrooper
Yeah.
counterparts.
Oh girl. Oh girl. The reveal that she had the gun, it was like, girl.
Can I? Okay, so I kind of love Krennic in this movie because he's really sassy. He's just like, oh Lyra, you dumb bitch. Like, like
Yeah.
it's a very different Krennic than we got in like the last season, the last few episodes of Andor, because he's a little more serious there.
Yeah.
But he was kind of like the perfect character, like a
Yeah.
sassy gay. Like,
I love
bitch,
Krennic.
please.
I love Krennic. Um, let's see. Then we go to Kafrine, I believe, right?
And we know why we're going to Kafrine because of the last
Of
episode of Andor.
Andor, yes, which is super cute.
And we love that
Um,
seamless transition.
yeah, and Cassian gets the intel that there has been, coincidentally, as they just received all this other Death Star intel from Clea, that a rebel pilot from Galen Urso's facility has been sent to Saw Gerrera's camp on
Mhm.
Jeddah. And then Cassian kills him, which is cool.
Yeah,
Look, yeah,
go Castian.
yeah. He's like, oh my god, we're gonna get caught, and he's like, it's gonna be fine. Boom. I'm like, what the?
No, you're gonna get caught.
I remember being in the theater, and then like, because because it really like up until then, the rebels are very like, oh yeah, like we don't hurt anybody, like
Yeah.
like blah blah blah. I remember being in the theater and he like shoots him and being like, "Whoa!" Like,
What are we watching?
yeah, whoa, who's this guy? Who let him join the rebels?
Come through,
Yeah,
Diego. Love
yeah,
this.
Okay. I mean, I wasn't like aroused by it, by you, I guess. Like,
Well, we're different that way, and that's okay.
okay. You're like, I like a soldier who does what it takes.
Really gets the job done.
Yeah. Anyways, then they go kidnap Jin from
They
her
break her out
labor
of
camp.
prison. Yeah.
Yeah. We move very fast in this movie compared to Andor. It's kind of jarring. Like, whoa.
Yeah, it's moved really, really quick.
Yeah, what are we doing here? And then they kidnap her and take her to Yavin, where they sit her down, and somehow they have a ton of intel suddenly on Jin. I don't know where in the past like a day they suddenly got her whole autobiography and all her aliases, but they had no problem finding her.
They put Clea to work. They
Yeah,
said, find out everything you need to know. Here's
yeah,
your cubicle. You
yep,
have all the resources of the Rebel Alliance at your disposal. Go for it,
yeah.
girl.
Find her. So they're like, well, we have to get this rebel pilot, and we need to find your dad, who we're pretty sure sent the rebel pilot, and we know Saw is on Jeddah, which is where this pilot was sent. But Saw keeps saying he's not on Jeddah, which is super weird. So he's not really going to talk to us. So
Mm.
how about you go in there
Yeah,
and
word on the street is they're really close with Saw.
yeah, and then we're gonna find your dad and we're gonna peacefully bring him here for testimony. And meanwhile, General Drayden's like, we're not. Yeah. Uh,
Ignore that. We're
yeah.
gonna he needs to die.
Yeah. We're gonna bring his body back, you know what I'm saying? Uh, yeah,
Which
so
which from a tactical perspective doesn't really make a lot of sense because if this pilot defected at Galen's request, like why would they not do a rescue mission to get as much information out of Galen as possible?
yeah,
Like killing Galen gets rid of all information he has about what the Empire is working on in the Death Star.
yeah. And anything else.
Yeah, so it doesn't really make
So
he would make a much more valuable POW than a body.
yeah. And they were like, well, we can't have him building anything else. And I'm like, well, he also won't build them if you bring him alive
Yeah,
into
exactly,
your
and lock him
facility.
up on Yavin. Like
Yeah, what is happening?
he probably would have been a lot more valuable that way.
Yeah, and I'm like, it seems weird that Mon Mothma would be like, yeah, shoot the fucker. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
Like, so does she
she's
know
really
about this
she's really
plan?
married to the lifestyle now. She's her she saw her driver die and she's just like,
Yeah,
oh, fuck it, I am a terrorist.
yeah, super weird there. Um,
Choices.
yeah. So nevertheless, Jin's like, you know what? Whatever. Let's go. Let's go. I have my own issues with Saw, but whatever floats your boat, as long as I can. Peace out after that. Um, yeah. So then they go to Jeddah, which is a super cool place.
The
Um,
Super Bowl place.
very big ties to the Jedi Order. Um, and we see a lot of toppled over um like rock carvings of Jedi, which have been lost to
And
time.
according to Yoda, Jeddah is a virgin in the Force,
Hmm.
which is probably why it was so important.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah. Well, being the operative word.
Past tense. Yeah, and then this is where we meet all of Saw's crazy ass rebels. We see Cassian being super paranoid about the town being ready to blow, and he's not wrong because the rebels fucking everything up. They've been
Mhm.
blowing up transports, as we know now, because of Andor, and so tension has been very high between Saw's rebels and the Empire. And here we are. So, and then they get, oh, we meet the Guardians of the Wills. Love those guys.
Oh yes, the Chirrut and Bays.
Yeah, they're super cool. And that's a deep cut Star Wars reference, the Guardians of the Whales. So I love that for them.
Is that what's the reference?
So Guardians of the Whales, it was part of like the original long ass title for Star Wars. It was like the adventures of Luke Skywalker and the tales of the Guardians of the Wills or whatever the fuck it was.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it was like the original concept of like these stories being like stories that are told by the Wills. Um, and the Wills were a group of people that would essentially guard Jedi temples and things having to do with the Force. And then they would kind of record historical things that happen and all kinds of other stuff.
Interesting.
So they were kind of like a level below Jedi. Like they obviously would believe in the Force, they would worship the Force, and some would be able to connect to the Force in certain ways, which we see in this film.
But they're more
Um,
like archivists.
yeah, yeah, and they're very, for the most part, very neutral, but they had strong relations with recording stuff for the Jedi and working.
Interesting. Well, that makes sense why Siri and Endo would be trying to restore the archives there in Jedi Survivor.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So,
Interesting. That's cool. I didn't know that.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's why these guys are a big deal, also. So I love that. Um, yeah, so they get taken to Saw's camp, right? And then um Saw is super gone by this point. Like Saw's sanity has left the planet. He is wild. I don't even, he's huffing Rhydonium. He is super paranoid about everything. So yeah. He's like
Now,
missing a
had
limb.
Clone Wars had been out, right? The cartoon had been out by this time, right? By
Yes.
2016, obviously. So this was my first, because I hadn't seen Clone Wars at this point, my first exposure to Saw, and then seeing him in Clone Wars when we did our watch through, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he wasn't always this crazy.
Yeah, and that was wild because I remember because up until that point, the only content was saw in it were those like three episodes of the Clone Wars or whatever.
Mhm.
And this is a very different version of the character, you know. So I remember
Yeah.
reading the
So
name.
you, you having seen it, what was your thought when you saw him on the screen?
Yeah, well, I remember reading about him being a character in this movie and that he was being played by Forrest Whitaker, and I was like, huh. And then seeing him in the trailer, I
Choices.
was like, whoa, you know? And then you see him in the movie, and he's just so unhinged. And it's like, it's been a rough
Bit of a
20 years, I guess, for you. Like, how did we get here? So now I'm glad that we've gotten as much content as we've gotten because, and truly, he's an interesting character. It's just, I didn't at the time realize he was going to be relevant at all. Like watching the Clone Wars, it's like, oh, okay, you know, um,
right.
sucks for this dude, and then you kind of forget him, and then he's like this one of the central characters of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And you're like, well, why?
I like that they do that. Like they really have such a vast universe with which to pull characters and create stories from and to tie them into like major pieces of like media, which is really
Yeah,
cool.
it is really cool. So overall, I've enjoyed that kind of journey and seeing them try to figure it out because I guarantee, Forrest didn't do that performance having seen the Clone Wars. So, you know, I think he did whatever he was gonna do, and then they were like, "We will figure out how we got here."
Yeah, we
Yeah,
will connect the dots as we
yeah,
go.
yeah. So that's been fun. Anyways, so he's ranting around like, "Oh, every day more lies," like all his stuff, and then he, him and Jin have that whole conversation where she's like, "Hey, haven't seen you since you made me homeless. How have you been?" Yeah. Also, thank you for raising me in a terrorist organization. Like that was super fun. You look good.
Rough.
Yeah. And then at first he's like, "Oh," first he's like, "It's not you." And then he's like, "Oh, they sent you here to kill me." It's getting real weird. And she's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, yeah, let's take a minute."
She's like, whoa, Uncle Saw, you're off your meds.
Yeah. It's like, might want to get you to a rehab. Let's look at some brochures. So he shows her the message that Galen sent with the pilot, who he also already drove crazy with the booglet or whatever the hell it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Or Mirage.
yeah, oh, yeah, that's his name, Mirage.
No, his name's Bodhi, but he looks like Mirage the
Mirage from
Drag
Drag
Queen.
Race, yeah. Rogue
Yeah.
One, a Drag Race all-star story. Um,
I love that.
yeah,
Casting to be followed shortly.
yeah. Rue would make Jin Georges, I guarantee.
Yeah,
Well, rebellions are built on hope, Henny. Okay.
Lotus.
Yeah. Ew. No. Anyways.
I love it.
So meanwhile, the Death Star needs a testing, and Tarkin is inspecting and planning to take all the credit. Um,
What a diva.
yeah. And this is coinciding with Rebels as they're kind of deciding whether or not to move forward with Project Stardust or with Thrawn's TIE Defender program. Um, the plot is being by this point, Thrawn got shot into space somewhere. Whoops. So that's not looking good. But they've also had a lot of problems with this Death Star. So Tarkin has had it up to here. The Emperor's had it up to here. And now there's a lot of issues happening right now because, especially after we seen Andor, we know they're worried about leaks about this thing happening before it's actually operational and ready to go.
Mhm.
So Tarkin's like, well, all this shit's happening on Jeddah, and we've mined what we can mine, and looks like we need a test firing because I need something to report. So
Blow it
blast
up.
this shit. Yeah, let's fucking rock. um, which is so funny because then Krennic gets blamed for it later. I love that. Tarkin's the one that's like, no, let's fucking do it. Yeah. Um, so then they blast Jeddah and everyone freaks the fuck out and they barely escape with their lives.
That was a cool scene. The
It
graphics
was
on
a cool
that,
scene.
just the scope of it was really cool.
It was really cool. So from there, Jin's like, hey, saw this weird message, and Cassian was like, fucking prove it, bitch. And she was like, well, I can't because, it was blown up. So,
I forgot to grab it.
yeah. And, they have the pilot and such, and they're like, well, let's just go get dad because you'll need to get dad anyway. Okay. So, and then they go to his facility, um, which looks like not a fun place to work. The weather there was rough and the landscape rough. But anyway, they land there. Cassian is ready to blow that dude's head off, but doesn't tell Jin that.
I'm gonna go get him.
Yeah. And I love that K2 was like, yeah, he walked out with a sniper rifle. Like, what the fuck did you think he was doing? Um,
A2's like my favorite part of Rogue One.
yeah. He's like, he's absolutely gonna shoot your dad in the head.
You might want to get him.
Yeah. And go get him, she does. Um, and then they fucking dumbass Rebel Alliance sends in bomber reinforcements. Oh yikes. Okay, so while they're on the way, Daddy Krennic wants to have a little chat with Galen because now we got pilots missing, like leaks are happening, like shit is bad, Galen. Right? So
And Krennic's like, I thought we were besties. Like, what is
yeah,
this?
yeah. So he lines him up with all of his like staff, and then he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill all your staff because one of them's talking. I think he feels like it's Galen. I
Hmm.
think he doesn't want it to be Galen, but I think he knows it's Galen. And then Galen's like, no, dude, it was me. It was me. So
So he kills him
um
anyway.
yeah, and then they all died, and that was real sad. And then he like bitch slapped Galen to the ground. And they have that
Yes.
whole exchange, and then the bombing happens, bam, bam, bam. And then Jin talks to Dad, and then he fucking dies. And then once again, she has nothing to back up what she's saying, but it's okay. Um, the Rebel Council will be super understanding about it. So they get the fuck out of there and go back to Yavin. How are we doing so far?
Great.
Yeah, love that. So before we get to Yavin, let's talk about Mustafar real quick because
Hmm.
yeah, Krenny makes a little pit stop
Does
to
he
Vader's
stop there of
castle.
his own accord, or does Vader summon him?
Um, it sounded like he was summoned. No, I don't remember.
I don't either. Because it sounded like he went there just to complain.
Can you look it up?
Oh, yeah. Where's that?
But yes, he stops at Mustafar, possibly voluntarily. We will confirm. But either way, we see. I loved this because we've never seen Vader's castle before either. That was like a whole new thing. Like this whole movie gave a new peek into what Vader's like. Um, at this point in time. And so seeing his castle, and then we see like one of his like cult servants, like which is cool. Um, and he wakes him up in his little bacta tube, and he's like, "Get your shit on," like Krennic's here. Um, and then Vader gets put together like a Lego set, and then he marches on out and talks to Krennic, and they have the coolest chat where Vader's like, "Why'd you blow shit up? Like, what's happening?" And even though like Tarkin is so to blame for it, but Krennic is taking the fall with Vader, and he's like, "I want you to tell the Emperor like how awesome I am because this shit works now. First of all, and I want to make sure I get the credit." And that's when Vader force chokes him, and then um Krennic says harder. Just kidding, no.
It does look
Um
like he was summoned.
okay, yeah. See,
Sorry.
Vader's pissed. Yeah, Vader's pissed. He's like, what the hell is this? I bet the Emperor was pissed. So yeah.
But it's
But
a really
anyways,
cool scene, though.
yeah, I loved it. Um, so yeah, so then Krennic leaves. So then Krennic heads to Scarif. Yikes. We'll talk about that in a minute. Um and then Jin and Cassian and everybody report to the rebel council about what happened. And Jin says, listen, like the plans are on Scarif. Like let's go get him, which I think is something Clea also suggests in Andor
I think she
initially.
mentions it.
Yeah, I think she mentions it to Cassian is like, you need to tell them to go get the plans or something. Um, so I bet Clea was in that room like, yes, bitch, that's what I fucking told them.
I've been telling them
Um,
that for 2 fucking days.
yeah, you tell these pussies. um, but anyways, they were like, no, we're
Yeah,
not gonna do
the
that.
Rebel Council is super frustrating because it's like on the one hand, okay, we're a rebel organization, but we don't want to like start a war. But it's like you're in a war though.
Yeah,
Like, and their hesitation to do that and to listen to intel and to act on it is super annoying as a viewer because it's like, well, what did you think you guys were going to be doing on Yavin? Like just
yeah,
chilling, like
yeah.
until they found you.
It's like they never feel like they're ready for it, but like the whole point is like, well, they're more than ready for it. So when are you going to be ready for it? Like, you don't
Exactly.
have the luxury of being ready for it. Like, you're going to do it or you don't. And you hope kind of
Hmm.
people join before you get wiped out. Like, that's
Yeah.
kind of all you can do. So Jin's like, hey, and on Jeddah, Cassian had uttered the iconic line, rebellions are built on hope to Jin, which he had
Hmm.
heard from the bellhop in Andor. And she uses it again here. Um, and it seems like it lands with some people, and others are like, yeah, but we're gonna get fucking blown up, you dumb bitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, so
He's like, well,
then,
an hour later.
yeah, so then there's that. So then we get to them walking around the hangar, and then Cassian has already kind of pulled together a group that includes Melshi from Andor.
Mhm.
Um, and he's like, "Hey, super feel bad that we bombed your dad. Whoops. Probably not the best decision on our part. I feel bad about it. Um, also, you're hot, so let's go to Scarif. Let's do this thing. So yeah. Um, and then all these people are like, sure. And then first of all, the rebel pilot really blew me away. I guess because he felt like so bad Galen left too, but I just feel like after everything that guy had been through, I'd have been like, yeah, you know what? Day off.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah, but good for him. So then they snag a ship and they are being prevented from leaving, and they give the call sign, which the rebel pilot, the defective, no, defected pilot. The pilot gives the call sign of Rogue One, which he gives off of the top of his head, and that now became historically known as their group. And then off to Scarif they go, and
But not
then
alone, right? Because the a portion of the council decides to leave and go with them, right? Or follow them there once they find out that they've left.
yeah, but they get to Scarif first before that happens.
Right, right. Because they're able to get through.
Yeah, and then things between Jin and Cassian are oddly heating up. Like it's getting a little scandalous, like on the way.
Fix who?
Yeah, let's talk about it because they have like a close moment in that ship, and I'm like, okay, first of all, calm down. And then she's like, I'm not used to people sticking around when things get tough. And then he's like, I don't remember what he said, but he said something back to her. Um, and it's just like you can feel like the tension.
And really, after 2 days,
Yeah. And
like,
people yeah, and people asked Tony Gilroy about this because they were like, so how does what happens in Andor like impact that? Because I guess some people are upset like because of Bix. And he's like, well, at this point, like she's been gone a year. She didn't tell him where she's going. He's a young dude. Like most of the rebels on the camp are men or lesbians, you know.
That's true. That's true.
He's like, and then it's a pretty girl. And then also it's the end. Like they feel like it's a one-way trip. Like, you know, him being with her on the beach at the end really is more like, what else are you gonna do? Like you're there with a person and it's the end.
Yeah, there's nothing to do but embrace.
So he was like, what the hell? He was like, so this being whatever love story people think it is not what impacted me writing about him and Bix. Like I don't understand. Which makes
Mhm.
sense.
It does
But
make
yeah.
sense.
But yeah,
It's
but
not that deep.
anyways. But Jin was the one that got him at the end. Okay. Mm-hmm. She said Nick
Literally.
she said knick knack paddywhack, give a dog a bone, found me in Andor and took him home. Okay. Yep.
Took him to the beach.
Mm-hmm. Yup. She said, fuck that bitch. It's understood. Netflix, these tits, who Bix? She ain't that good.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Give me a call,
Put that
Sony.
put that on
The
a shirt.
songwriter. Yeah.
Star Wars, a Rogue One, Netflix.
Netflix, these ticks.
Shit. I'm fucking
Who
dead.
Bix? Anyway, so they get to Scarab. They begin infiltrating the facility, and then the rebels have heard that they've left and gone to Scarif. Um, and so yes, some are inspired to defy the council and go, which is nice. Um,
We love a supportive team.
yeah. Um, Jeddah, I think, was also like a big shakeup for some of them because they were like, oh, like either way, shit's about to be real bad. So,
Mhm.
um, Bale tells Mon he's going to go to Alderaan to tell them that there's not going to be peace because I think at that point he's prepared to stand up against the Emperor also because what else
Which
are you
leads us
going
to
to do?
believe that he is on Alderaan when the planet is destroyed.
Yeah. Um,
Though it's not confirmed, but we can reasonably expect him to be on Alderaan when it's destroyed.
yeah. And Leia seems to really miss Dad so later. So I really I don't think he made it out. But yeah, because I think to Mon and Bale it's clear like the Senate, there's no need for a Senate anymore. The charade of a Senate if they have something like the Death Star.
Well, don't
Um,
they, in the opening part of A New Hope, don't they disband the Senate and the
it
regional
hap
governors?
it happens during the movie after
Right.
they've taken Leia. They have a meeting and they're kind of informed that the Emperor has already disbanded the Senate because now
Mhm.
they've the Death Star because Alderaan's been destroyed by that point, so now everybody knows about it. They can't cover that up, so now they're like, "This thing works, and we're gonna use it. So
We're
don't
good to
need you anymore.
go.
Whatever I say
Yeah.
goes, or I'll fucking blow you up. Thank you so much." So
Yeah.
yeah, so the Battle of Scarif begins because then they begin infiltrating the facility. The rest of the team, like Melshi and everybody, are creating a distraction by just bombing the shit out of the rest of the beach to get all the troops away from the facility, while Cassie and K2 and Jin are inside trying to get the plans. And then this does not go well. Oh,
Yeah. At first, the plan works pretty well because they are able to
yeah,
empty the garrison, and
yeah. I mean, it
critics there like, what the fuck?
it looked promising, and and like we said, there's other versions that were in existence prior. But anyways, they slowly start getting wiped out on this beach, which is kind of sad to watch. And then we see K2 give his life to get Jin and Cassian into where the plans are.
That was super sad.
Yeah.
I was really bummed
Um,
out because I really like K2.
I do too. I wish we got more of him in Andor if they were going to do that, because they
Yeah.
retconned a Cassian K2 comic by doing what they did with him in Andor. It completely
Hmm.
overrides that comic. Um, but I would argue it's in a less beneficial way. Like we don't really get a lot of them.
Yeah.
So, anyways, um, so then it's kind of just down to Jin and Cassian. Yikes.
Alone again.
So yeah, and they tell what's the pilot's name?
Bodhi.
Bodhi. So Bodhi is working on getting the rebels in space to take the shield down so they can actually transmit the plans when Cassian and Jin get them. Because I think they all know at this point getting off the planet is going to be a little rough at this point in time. So they gotta airdrop them the plans. So so they're working on that, and then he dies getting that message out, which is crazy. But
Yeah, that was super
nevertheless,
sad too. It's a really
yeah.
sad movie at
Yeah,
this point.
it really is. So he dies, but they figure out a way to ram the shield down, which also sounded like for that ship it was a one-way mission, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, the Hammerhead Corvette. I
Yeah, I
remember
was
us watching
like,
it and me going like, what other purpose does this ship serve?
yeah. So that was rough, but then they got the shield down. Also, Blue Squadron in this movie is really cool. They were a concept squadron from A New Hope that didn't make it in.
Mhm.
Um, but then they're wiped out in this movie, so
And
that
now we know why.
sucks. Yeah.
I
And
like
Red
how they did
5.
that because there was a technical issue with the
Hmm.
technology at the time. So
Yeah.
they went back and said, well, this is why we couldn't do
Yeah. So I like that. And I like the cameos from a lot of the pilots we see in A New Hope. That was cool. And then Red 5 is also taken out because that's what Luke will assume when he's joined the alliance in a
that.
couple
Hmm.
short days. um yeah. So, but anyways, they're dead. So Cassian and Jin get up the tower. They begin Bluetooth airdropping these fucking plans upstairs. And they're just kind of hoping it's worked. They don't really know what's going on up there. So they're just like, hey, fucking hope so. Um, Cassian took a tumble, which cannot be good for his spine. Let me tell you that. He's,
Yeah, that was a rough fall.
yeah, it's not going to matter
I'd say have
anyway.
that looked
But
at, but
yeah, yeah, I guarantee it's better. um,
I
he
guarantee it's
doesn't feel a
melted.
thing now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so then Krennic confronts them on the tower. Um, well, confronts Jin mostly, and then Cassian kind of shows up. Um, and then they take
I like
Krennic
that they kind of
down.
have this a similar "Who are you" moment that
Yeah.
Cyril and Cassian do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So he gets taken down, but he's still alive, baby. Just in time to see the Death Star get real close to Scarif. I'm also like, really look that big? Like, because like I don't know, it's about the
I
size of
guess
a
it depends on how
moon.
close they are to it. Yeah,
Yeah, and
but
I'm thinking
Armoon,
about arm. Right. I feel like I don't know.
I feel like something that large would affect the planet's gravity a little bit,
Yeah, I would.
or like it would be
Yes.
too close for comfort for the
Yeah, it would.
station.
Yeah, it would do something. So I
I
don't
mean, it looked
understand
cool
it.
on screen,
Yeah,
like that was sick.
yeah, but
And then
I
they
just have questions.
miss,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they they're that close, and they don't actually hit the station; they just hit the planet. But they're
yeah,
aiming for the station.
yeah,
Doesn't really matter, but
yeah. I mean, they're still getting the hang of it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, yeah,
third time's a charm.
yeah. Whoops. Now they're like,
Alderaan,
ooh, margin of error on the targeting system looks like.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So they transmit the plans. Cassian and Jin go to the beach. Um, and that Cassian tells
Like
Jin,
this.
yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, not my beach, baby. Okay, I'm relaxing over here. Um, um, Cassian tells Jin that her dad would be proud of her. And then they kind of hug while they wait for the end because the Death Star blasts that shit up real good, and off they go. And we actually, and that's the end of Andor, which, first of all, I gotta say, I feel a little bad for Jin because she is the main character of this movie, and now I think for the most part people think of it as Cassian.
It's yeah, it's just Andor's film.
Yeah, so that kind of sucks. But anyways, they're dead. Bye. And we end the movie with Vader's hallway scene because Vader shows up and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get those plans." And so he boards their ship and he starts the slaughter, which is awesome.
It's a sick scene.
Yeah, he just makes his way through those. Okay. He is a hungry boy, and it is Thanksgiving, and they are all the sides, baby. And he is just
Mhm.
running through them like it is a buffet.
He hungry.
Yeah. For death. Um, for
And to think they
bloodshed.
almost didn't have that in the film. That was added like a few months before its release.
Yeah, thank God. Oh, God, yeah. It's my favorite scene of the whole.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Yeah,
And then we
I
see
love it.
Leia, like briefly we
Yeah,
see Leia, which is really
she
cool. Which
barely
even
makes it out.
Carrie Fisher got to see that, and she was really
Yeah,
excited about it because she passed away not long after, but she
yeah,
did get to see that in the film.
yeah. I love that. Um, So we saw Leia. She barely made it away from Vader, and that sets us right into A New Hope.
Mhm.
So look for that soon in an upcoming episode. Also, okay. Um, yeah. So that is Rogue One. Did you have any other notes on it?
I did. I had some trivia stuff. Let's see.
Let's hear it.
Sure. One of my favorite lines in Rogue One is when K2 slaps Cassian and said there's a fresh one if you mouth off again. That was not scripted.
Love it.
Uh yeah, what's his name? Mm, Alan Tudyk did that impromptu, which is cool.
That's awesome.
That's one of my favorites. That's why he's so sassy. We went over the unused footage of Red and Gold Leader from A New Hope, made it into the film. Let's see.
Oh yes, that's right.
Um, this is the first Star Wars movie with no mention of the name Skywalker,
Mm-hmm.
where the protagonist is not a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
There are no light side lightsabers featured. All the main characters die. It doesn't include the famous Wilhelm scream. Uh, it is not to use scrolling text at the beginning of the film, and it's the first Disney film since The Black Cauldron in 1985 to be shot in 70mm widescreen format. Those are some cool firsts.
I mean, there's a lightsaber in it, like a whole rebel crew gets slaughtered by one.
Yes, but it's not a light side lightsaber. It's a
Oh,
Sith
okay.
lightsaber. Yeah, it's the only lightsaber featured in the whole film,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's
I see.
a Sith lightsaber.
I see.
Um, we talked about Blue Squadron
Mm-hmm.
having to be edited out of A New Hope,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked a little bit about these other points I have. Yoda and Luke talking about Jeddah and how it being a virgin to the Force. We talked about Siri and Endo, Cordova trying to restore the archives on
Yeah.
Jeddah, and that's all in the Jedi Survivor game, which is really
Mm-hmm.
great.
It's a great tie into this too.
Yeah, and yeah, I think we covered everything else actually in our conversations. That's pretty cool.
I love that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I do love this point in the canon because a lot of things really intersect and overlap in a way that's makes for really good storytelling.
It does. And it's not, I think the people that have problems, so Perry, my husband, didn't really like Rogue One initially because it doesn't have the mysticism that the other Star Wars movies do. It doesn't have like the Jedi versus Sith. It doesn't have the stuff that are quintessentially Star Wars.
Yeah.
But then having watched Andor, and seeing it more from like a spy movie perspective has
Yeah.
really grown to appreciate it, which I think is why the series is so important in the gravity of Rogue One as a film.
I
And
kind of
it's
I kind of like that, and that was my big critique about Rebels when it first came out, was that, and I'm happy with what we ended up with. I love Kanan, I love Ezra, but it was just like, weren't these motherfuckers supposed to be dead? Like why do we have all these Jedi? Like you don't really, in a lot of ways, like you don't really feel the loss of them being
right.
extinct,
Mhm.
because they're like, oh, somebody survived, and then they do, like I'm tired of that. So
Yeah.
I do appreciate that about Andor, is that it's truly grounded in the political side of it, where all of that stuff is really taken out because it's supposed to be. And
Hmm.
then we kind of, as we go along, we ease our way into it. And Rogue
And
One is kind of
rediscover
like
it. Yeah.
the transition into, back into, the stuff we're used to, which I think serves a better purpose that way.
Yeah. But it in and of itself is an important piece. Um, and
Yeah.
it, I mean, across the board, it tends to get really, really, really high ratings as far as a Star Wars film is concerned.
Yeah. 100%. I wouldn't be surprised if, especially after Andor and Rogue One's now on top again because people are watching it after Andor.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we got some stuff that's a little more grounded upcoming.
Yeah, and it's kind of rippling through the fandom because even non-related IPs like Battlefront 2, the video game, or has saw a
Oh yeah.
massive surge in players that it hasn't seen in a
Yeah.
really long time.
It's
There's a
because they have
really
the
big
Scarif level and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a really big push now for like a Battlefront 3 because people really like this method of storytelling and this
Mm.
vibe of it. I think and hope we see more of it because it's really cool.
Yeah, I think we might. We'll see. Um yeah, but that's Rogue One, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to recap, um Netflix, these tits, who bigs? She ain't that good. Okay, anyways. Yeah.
Love that.
Mhm. It's gonna get us a streamy. um, anything else for Rogue One?
um, no, go watch it. It's really good.
In that case, let's wrap this up. Thank you, Fear Sensitives, for listening and or watching.
If you're listening to us on a podcast platform, we'd love it if you rate us and subscribe and also leave a review.
And if you are watching us on YouTube, and if you are, we love that for you. Hit the subscribe button to subscribe to the Planet Grady YouTube channel so you don't miss out on a single visual masterpiece we put out.
Follow us on Instagram at STAR GAYZ Official and follow us individually if you want to. Follow me at Zach_Baloney on Instagram.
And follow me on Instagram at planet_Grady. And check us out on Blue Sky too. We will be right here next week. So until then, watch Rogue One if you haven't. Wrap up your whole Andor storyline because he did. And do something for yourself. And wait for us next week. And until then, may the fierce be with you.
Yeah.